This is getting expensive.
Hey folks, welcome to another third-party Transformers Masterpiece review. This one is for Fans Toys 17 Hoodlum, who bears a striking resemblance to Hot Rod from Transformers the movie, which we just took a look at on the channel, did a commentary for it with the Patreon tribe, and Hoodlum is currently available at bigbadtoystore.com, which is my favorite online toy store for ordering toys. And a quick look at the box, which is very nice. Fans Toys, if you're a box person, Fans Toys puts out some of the nicest ones. This is bumpy. It's elevated a little bit, raised. This beautiful lettering right here, as well as the artwork on the front, is slightly raised. Tough for it to come across on camera, but very beautiful, high quality. Look at that. Glossy. So much better quality than the G1 reissue stuff that I'm seeing at Walmart right now. And on the back of the box, we see a picture of Hoodlum, Hot Rod himself. I'm not too sure about that name, actually. He's a nice lad, so I don't think that name fits. I mean, he's not a punk, he's not a hoodlum. He means well, he has a great deal of potential. There's a picture of car mode with the canopy, or windshield, or whatever you call it, that rises up, and his Targetmaster, Firebolt. And given the box a quick open here. So I've already gone through this box to make sure that everything checks out in here, but really nice, not good for the environment, I guess, but styrofoam packaging with the Fans Toys 17 on there, and you also get some paperwork with a trading card here, instruction booklet, again, very high quality. This is like a little miniature magazine. This isn't just a little fold-out pamphlet. So that's really nice. And let's take a peek inside. And here's a look at the trading card that you get with Hoodlum. And this is not paper. This feels like a credit card. It's nice and sturdy. And it has some bio information on the back. So that's really cool. And here is a look at the instruction manual. Shows you all the accessories that are included with him. And then transformation steps on how to change him from robot to futuristic roadster, as well as his gun and some other features. So really nice little instruction booklet there. Presentation is important, and it's really nice to have a new addition to your collection wrapped up, delivered to you in such nice packaging. So this is very secure too. This is cool. It's like this rubbery clear plastic, but they just put that on top just for extra guarding against paint wear and damage. And here we have, oh, don't you love that sound? Doesn't that take you back? So he's got a quality control sticker, which I already took off the first time I opened him, but it's kind of interesting that he has a quality control sticker on him, even though he has a major quality issue, which I will get to in a few minutes. But before we get to that, just taking a look at some of his other accessories. He's got the original Hot Rod, G1 Hot Rod, did come with 2 blasters. So this one comes with 2 blasters. And of course, when he's saving Cup's bacon in the movie from the octopus tentacle beast, he uses a saw blade, and so he includes a saw blade as well. Now the first thing that I notice about him right off the bat, other than he looks a lot better than Masterpiece Hot Rod, the official one, is that he's missing the Autobot symbol, the Autobot logo on his chest. Because this is an unofficial third-party offering, it's not really Hot Rod, even though it is obviously Hot Rod. They're not allowed to put Autobot or Decepticon logos on it. It's kind of funny that he looks so much like Hot Rod, both in his robotic and vehicle modes, but that's the one thing they're not allowed to include. So luckily, it's Toy Hacks to the rescue, and they offer a wide range of different stickers, Autobot stickers, logos, that you can use to make your third-party Transformers that lack faction insignias look a little bit more official. So you can go with the Autobot symbol on white background if you want, but the one I chose, this is actually clear background, even though it looks white, because I want to be able to see the yellow in behind the Autobot symbol. So we're going to pop that on right now, and we just need to decide what size we're going to go with. So this one's too small. This one is too small. That one might be okay. That one might be too big. So which one? I think we'll go with this one right here. And if I don't like it, I can just peel it off and try one of the other ones. So let's peel this guy off. Toy Hack stickers are fantastic. They used to be known as Repro labels. I guess it's still Repro labels. But the absolute highest quality in Repro stickers, Transformer stickers. And this is another thing that takes me right back. You got one shot at this, kid. Don't mess it up. So I don't have as steady hand as I used to. It's just kind of slowly kind of put it on and hope for the best. I don't know, does that look even? I think that looks pretty good. Yeah. So I'm glad that I went with the clear background, because that I think that looks better. The Masterpiece Rodimus Prime has white outline, white background, which I'll compare in a few minutes. But this, I think, looks great. And I think that's the right size too. And no, he wasn't missing from the package. I just forgot to put him back in there when I opened it back up again. He does include a Targetmaster. This little guy is Firebolt, who appeared very briefly in the Reboot 3-parter, which is season 4, I guess you could call it, of the Sunbow animation run. And he's got some really nice silver paint applications on his legs, on his blasters, and a red face with a blue visor. So that's some really nice paint detailing on this guy. And take a look at some of his articulation here. He's got shoulder movement, so he's actually got quite a bit here because of the transformation, so he can even get his shoulders up there. They move all the way up and down. He's got double jointed elbows, so he's got like he can even go the wrong way. He can look like he fell down and broke his elbow. The elbows do actually rotate out on the ball joint in there. So he's got quite a bit of range in his upper body. No waist twist unless you do this. So there is a waist twist, but the problem is you have to pull this thing down in the back for him to have his waist twist. So it is cool. You can sort of give him he's got head articulation too as part of his transformation. So you can sort of give him a running pose. That waist twist helps with running or punching poses like so. But the way it's supposed to transform is this back piece is supposed to go up in there and lock, which locks his waist, which takes away a waist twist. The legs sort of suck at the hips. Once again, he's in his own way. there isn't enough clearance here. I guess you could shave this down, but for a third-party high-end toy like this, that should have already been done for you. So as you try to do this, you're going to wear some of the paint away here. That really sucks. That should easily be able to go more than that. I guess you can. It feels like I'm pressing really hard on it, and I just don't want to push that up. I guess you can, but it feels like I'm going to damage it, so I don't want to do it. Knee bend. Let's get this gun out of the way. Again, he's in his own way here. So if you get this out of the way, the knee bends quite a bit because it's a double joint. So he's got fantastic knee articulation, but no hip articulation. No ankle pivot, which is so standard now with all Transformers. Even Hasbro's doing it a lot. But there we go. That popped off too, just from trying to force it forward a little bit. I guess you can pop it off and pop it back on. There we go. So I guess he is capable of doing that Leonidas Spartan kick. He's sort of... Now he doesn't have enough range this way to do the splits, because same part right there. So I guess if you're concerned about damaging the thing, you could pop it off and pop it back on like that. But legs are really disappointing on this guy. He has the potential to have a lot of range, but just this part right here is very annoying. I can't believe that this got to the production stage without fixing that, because this guy, there's not much posing you can do with his legs, sort of like that. Just a little bit of plastic shave from the hips and it would have made a huge difference on this guy. And to give you a comparison to his G1 self, here he is with the original Targetmaster Firebolt. And let's see here. The original, the blasters were, I guess, sort of pointing up, but they get buried into the back. So they decided to go with a different transformation on this one and have the blasters pointing down. But he does look similar enough. Silver bottom or gray bottom, black on the top, and the red face is really the important part of Firebolt. And similar chest detailing, so they got it close enough. And for those who are curious, a Targetmaster was included with the North American release of Rodimus Prime, Hot Rod. So here he is with, I guess this guy, I think his name was Offshoot. So the Fans Toys Firebolt is a little bit taller, has, I guess, more G1 accurate paint detailing on the face. This guy has a silver face with a red visor. This guy has the blasters pointing up, which is a little more similar to the G1, but he's got black legs, which is not as accurate. This guy has a lot more range in his hips, though, because he doesn't have those hips that are in his own way. So that allows for more dynamic posing, but he doesn't have the ankle pivot either. So if you prefer your Targetmasters to be a little on the smaller side, then Offshoot's the way to go. But if you want something a little bigger, a little more substantial, then the Fans Toys Firebolt is the one for you. Okay, let's talk articulation. If you are someone who likes to futz with your Transformers, pose them in different ways, and not just have them sitting on a shelf in a pose, I'm going to take a look at what his posability is like. He's got some really stiff, listen to that, stiff shoulder joints. It's not ratcheted, but it almost might as well be, because every time you move it, you hear a click. But he's got shoulder joints, shoulder movement. He can raise his arms all the way up in the air, a little bit even further back. His spoiler gets in the way a little bit. And he's got an elbow bend, but not that much actually. I guess I'm getting spoiled by the double jointed elbows and double jointed knees, because this guy can't collapse his arms even more like a lot of newer Transformers can. And he also has an elbow swivel, and he has the standard Autobot car hands, which is just a bunch of fingers all together, and they open and they close. And with the guns, standard, if you've seen Masterpiece, you've got the little peg that fits into the little hole in the hand, which makes it fairly secure before you even close the hand on it. And since the hands are nice and sturdy, instead of sometimes the individual finger hands are really floppy, he's got a great grip on those guns. Those aren't coming out. The shoulders can actually drop down a bit if you don't like the look of the really high shoulders. The problem with that is they tend to want to go up as you're moving it, but that does give him a little bit of a different look if you aren't digging the high. I mean, that's really high. That's too high. That's like Rodimus Prime high. So like the Masterpiece Rodimus Prime release, I think maybe they intended this to be Hot Rod mode and the shoulders up to be Rodimus Prime mode. Which reminds me that he includes a separate face, which you can install in the head. It's a Rodimus Prime face. So placing this on this guy isn't to scale. Rodimus Prime is supposed to be bigger than all the other Autobots, but if you have a certain Voyager scaled Optimus Prime, then you can actually have the two guys together, and you just need a screwdriver. This is kind of a bummer when you have to actually undo a screw, because we all know there are so many screws that get stripped, screw holes getting stripped, and you're potentially damaging this thing trying to do a swap. It's better when you can just pull a face out. See, the screw actually goes into the back of the hot rod face. But now we can pop the Rodimus face in, close the head onto it, pop it on the ball joint, and I guess to give him more of that Rodimus look, Rodimus Prime, you can raise his shoulders a little bit. So now you have a Rodimus Prime, and if you have this Voyager-sized third-party offering of Optimus Prime, it's exactly like the Masterpiece Optimus Prime, but it is Voyager-sized, like this Rodimus Prime, then you can have the two leaders of the Autobots from G1 era side by side, and they scale together perfectly. So some people have expressed some confusion as to why there is a Rodimus Prime face included, and I think it's because of this particular Optimus Prime, or any other Voyager-sized Optimus Prime. There's a lot of new Primes about the same size, but just in case you wanted to have the two Primes back to back or side by side on your shelf like this, then you can have a miniature Rodimus Prime. But for the purpose of this review, we are going to be using the hot rod face because to me this guy is going to be hot rod. So we just pop the face back in, close the head up, pop it back on the ball joint. Undoing the screw is what makes it easier to pop the head on and off. And then we just tighten the screw back in there. And not too tight to damage anything, but tight enough so that the head isn't wobbling around like that. Alright, I found the issue. The face wasn't all the way in, so I just had to press it, gave it a little snap sound, and now I'll be able to tighten this a little bit more. And that's good. And while we're taking a look at his head, I'm going to show you the Visor Gimmick from the part in the movie where he sees the Autobot shuttle coming, and Daniel says there's a hole in the shuttle, and Hot Rod activates his visor and goes, "What?" And the funny thing is, he can't look up. He can't look up, he can't look down. So he's got the visor, but he needs to, what? Do that in order to look up. So that is, I love this figure. I think he looks fantastic. He really captures the look of Hot Rod in the movie, I think a lot more than the official Masterpiece Hot Rod did. But there are just a few things about this figure to me that aren't up to snuff for a 2019 Fans Toys Masterpiece Transformer. So I'm gonna flip the visor back up, and I guess just to show you a close-up of it, it's just got a very, very slight blue tint to it. I like the Masterpiece, Takara Masterpiece Rodimus visor better because it's a darker blue to it. Pop that back in there. Let's see what else. He's got some wrist articulation. I think that's where we left off. So he can do punching motion. So he can punch your Sharkticons. Oh man! Or your camera lens. Okay, going through camera lenses like crazy lately thanks to these Transformers. He's got a waist twist, so he can do one of these poses. He looks like he should have an ab crunch, but here's the part you got to be really careful with, and when I transform him you'll see this better. This hood part. So he's got a false hood. Like a lot of Transformers, Masterpiece Transformers, this looks like it's the front of his car, and it was with a G1 toy, but it's not. They just did that to make it look more compact, and that's the actual front of his car. It's die-cast, and it rubs against die-cast in here, which is making the paint chip on a lot of these, and that's another major bummer. In terms of leg articulation, he has what is called a hip skirt on the side, not on the front though. So here's another issue with his articulation. This does go up. This whole crotch skirt, I guess you call it, goes up. I guess that gives you a little bit more articulation, but I really don't like how that looks. I don't like the price you have to pay in order to get that more. Having this whole part come up. I prefer when these little parts, hip skirts, just are separate pieces that flip up, that give you more motion instead of this whole thing coming up. And he does have the ability to do some splits. It seems like every new Transformer has to be able to do splits. So the hip skirts on the side allow for that. And for the rest of his articulation, he has knee bend, and it is one of these really nice double knee bends. So it's not just a 90 degree, it's a little bit more than that. And well, his hips can also fold out to the side like that if you want. And his feet also have a lot of range as well. And no ankle pivot, which a lot of new Transformers seem to have an ankle pivot, but well, he does. It's very slight, but he does. Seems to be just really stiff on this side. But he does have a tiny bit of ankle pivot, which is hindered by these parts, just like the motion up here is hindered. He just has parts that hinder a lot of his own movement. So he looks great, but he doesn't move so great. He is capable of getting some really cool dynamic action poses though, because of all that range. So I think one of the things that I really wish this guy had, and maybe there could be a fan upgrade, some more head articulation would be splendid. Just the ability to look up a bit. And there's the saw blade gimmick, which is easy to install. It's just like the Masterpiece Rodimus Prime version. You just have to figure out how to place this onto the fist, much like the original Masterpiece Optimus Prime. Looks like this is how it goes. If you have the fist going this way, then this has to go in this way with these kind of I don't know what you call them, extra little spaces at the top here, and they'll just fit over top of the fist, and you just push it on, and it's kind of a tight squeeze, so you have to just wiggle it. Also, this tab on the bottom will go into this space right here, so you just kind of wiggle back and forth. Takes a little bit of pressure. I don't really want to push this all the way because it feels like I might be damaging the fist a little bit. The saw blade is a little big for my tastes. I like the size of the one that came with Masterpiece Rodimus Prime. A little bit smaller, but it does spin really nice. And that's the whole point of the gimmick. It's a saw blade. And it has some nice coloring too. It's see-through, partially see-through, with silver coloring and a little tinge of blue in there too. So really nice paint job on that. Very nice. And he's ready to rescue Cup from underwater mechanical beasts. And before we move on to his transformation, just have a few comparisons for you. Here he is with his G1 self, and they have gone the more cartoon or movie accurate with the dark silver legs, whereas the original one had magenta legs. Really nice chrome and spoiler on the Fans Toys version. It's also nice that the Fans Toys version doesn't have a bad case of engine head. And the comparison most people are interested in, here he is with the Takara Tomy Masterpiece Hot Rod. And even though they look like they're fairly similar in height, in hand, in person, the Fans Toys Hot Rod he just feels a lot more beefy, a lot more substantial. He feels like he's I keep wanting to just move his head up a little bit, but he's in his own way. He does feel more Hot Rod to me. He looks a lot better. This guy, I love Hot Rod. He's a character that for most Transformers fans, you either love him or hate him, and I love him. But this Masterpiece version, I do not love. I have him because I wanted a Hot Rod to be alongside my movie collection in behind there of Transformers, but really not good. Like this thing that keeps coming up, not good. The legs are thin, the back, and he's small. He's the size of the Autobot cars, like the Masterpiece cars, like Prowl, and Sideswipe. So to me, Hot Rod has always been a little bit bigger than those guys. And Fans Toys has released a cup, which they call Coot. And this guy next to that cup is too small compared to this guy, who is the proper size. And let's talk about coloring as well. This guy is kind of like a, compared to him, he's like a dull gray magenta. Whereas, well, see, he's not very sturdy. This guy is, to me, the proper color. He looks like he jumped right out of the movie, especially the new Blu-ray restoration. He's almost a pinkish magenta, which I guess some people might not like because it's different from the G1 Hot Rod, which was more of a pure magenta. But I like this color. I think they nailed the color perfectly. Very movie accurate on this guy. And even though they're close in height, you can just look at the heads, and that says it all to me. Like, the head on the Fans Toys version is quite a bit bigger than this undersized head on the official Masterpiece. That one's too small now that I compare it to this. This one looks like he has more proper proportions. And I think the spoiler on the Fans Toys version is better as well. It just seems to sit there nicer, it's bigger. The spoiler is one of the main parts of Hot Rod's look, so I think it just looks more movie accurate on him as well. And here he is with the old timer Fans Toys Coot, also known as Cup, and he scales so much better with this particular cup than the Masterpiece Hot Rod did. And another little feature is it's a really tiny amount, but if you pull this, you can get a little bit more height on him, or if you want him to be a little shorter, you can collapse it. So if you want him to be even a little bit more tall, you can do that. But I love this duo. They're one of my favorite parts of the Transformers movie, and that's really awesome to be able to have these two guys finally side by side on a shelf, as opposed to these guys on a shelf side by side. And man, he is just really finicky. But even though these aren't made by the same company, a lot of people were having these two guys together, and there you go, he just keeps falling. But too short compared to this particular one. So that's really nice that Fans Toys decided to have two of their Transformers from the movie be in proper scale with each other, because that's certainly something that Hasbro doesn't always do, or Takara, keep their toys in scale with each other. And with a couple of primes, here he is with Masterpiece Optimus Prime, or rather a third-party KO, I guess you can call it, but it looks so nice. I call it an homage, with really nice metallic paint applications all throughout. But that looks really nice, the scale with them together. And the comparison that I was most interested in seeing when I got him, here he is with Masterpiece Rodimus Prime, and those look perfect together. Even though he's the same coloration in the movie, from Hot Rod to Rodimus Prime, in the Season 3 animated series, they did darken Rodimus Prime up a bit. A little darker magenta. So the Masterpiece Rodimus is still pretty bright magenta compared to something like DX9 Carry or the G1 Hot Rod and Rodimus Prime. But I do like the subtle difference in color, the little bit of darker color scheme with Rodimus Prime. And they're the perfect size too. I prefer this to this over the official Hot Rod to this, because that other guy is too undersized. And if you want to go with a matrix pose, the interesting thing is the shoulders, because they're limited range, you have to use elbow bend a little bit in order to get the matrix in there. So I like using this one. It's from the original masterpiece Optimus Prime because it can open and it's chrome. Big fan of chrome. But you just place this in here. It's nice that the fists actually rotate, so you can kind of finagle it in there. And once again, the limited head articulation, he can't look down at it. And I mean, this is one of the main poses I'm going to be doing with him, opening the matrix. So it's a shame that you don't have more range. He can't hold it closer to his body. If you want him to hold the matrix over his head, he can do that, like the masterpiece Rodimus is doing in behind, but he can't look up at it like the masterpiece Rodimus is doing. So it's a trade-off. In order to get the extra articulation, you need that exposed neck and ball joint. They decided to go against that, which means he can't look up. But that's one of my favorite parts in the movie, when he opens the matrix and becomes Rodimus Prime. It's one of my most empowering transformations, which I did on a top 5 list a while back. So that's really cool that you can have these two side by side lighting our darkest hour now. Let's start off by transforming Firebolt here. I like to start with the head, turning that around, and you're going to pull the cannon up like this. Nice how the head just goes right into the body right there. And by doing that, by turning the head around, you won't see the face in there. The arms point straight up, and then you're going to collapse the arms at the elbows like this, or the other way, and shimmy them up like that. Move this guy over to the right position. This is the arm that always wants to pop out, so I need to maybe put a little bit of clear nail polish on there. I mean, the arms can go either way. It's really up to you how you want it to be. And then you pull the handle out, and these legs right here, check this out. The paint, because you have to rotate these legs like this, it's wearing away the paint that's in there, and it's really tight because it's paint on paint. And we're going to collapse the knees like this, use the double joint. Here's a tab right here which feeds into that tab and slot. So we collapse that, we fit it together with a little squeeze like that, and it doesn't really plug into there any sort of way, but that's it. It's a fairly easy transformation, a little more involved than this, but it's a nice extra that they included because they didn't have to, but they did. It has the tab as well, which you can feed into his fist. One of the issues I'm noticing with all of his weapons is this orange part right here is too big, and so it sort of gets in the way of his weapons. So he's got his Targetmaster. It's not a perfect look. It's not a perfect fit because of that wrist bump, but if you do want that Targetmaster look to him, then that is included. Alright, that's robot mode, and now we're going to transform him into his Turbo Roddin' Hot Rod car mode. So the first thing we're going to do is pull on this head. I guess he can look up, but that it separates the entire backpack portion first of all, and that isn't really a looking up point. Yeah, that's even worse than an exposed neck. That's just invisible neck. But you're going to pull this part apart, and then you got to get this part detached from this part. So you can just grip either side here and try to sort of wiggle it out by pushing on these pieces up. And then you're going to rotate these orange pieces in. You're going to rotate this piece around like this. And there's a hinge in there so you can move it down into place like that. And we're going to turn the head to one side or the other and fold it in. So we're getting there. And these pieces feel like they, look at that. They come out. It's really tight on the other side. I don't know if they're supposed to be out in robot mode. I guess they are. They're supposed to be out in robot mode, but they were already collapsed on mine. And probably looks better with it collapsed, so it's kind of an unnecessary joint. And there's actually, we're going to flip this piece out for the back of the car and then rotate these orange pieces in like that. So that's the top of the car. That's finished. And then we're going to pull. Next step is to pull this collar piece down, and this rotates, and that's a little a little worrisome too, because when you're rotating this, I'm wondering, am I going to be scratching paint here? Am I going to be scratching up my Autobot logo that I stuck on there? But that sits like that. And one cool thing about this transformation, even though it's quite different from the G1 version, it's very close to how he transforms in the movie. So we're going to move these shoulders up out of the way, and you're going to want to, this is the front of the car now, not this, so don't be thrown off. This is a false hood, but these pieces right here pull out to form the front of the car. So we just kind of wiggle them out. And on the other side, they're a little stiff on mine. And we just keep wiggling. Just keep wiggling. That one's really tight for some reason. Trying to get a look inside to see how this is working. There we go. So that pulls out like that. Now we got the front of the car on the other side too. And this is an issue with most of these. You see that right there? That paint at the very front, we'll see it better when it's done in car mode, is grinding against the metal joint in there. Not smart. That shouldn't happen in 2019. So I know I'm usually a on the bright side type of guy, but that really can't be happening for something that costs as much as this guy does. And here's the part of the transformation that is like from the movie. When Hot Rod transforms, he does this weird, I guess you got to move the head out for this part, this rotation, which the G1 toy didn't do. But in order to do it, this whole piece here needs to rotate, but you need to get the arm out of the way in order to do it. So do what you need to do here in order to get the clearance to spin this arm around so that now the front of the car is pointing in the right direction. There we go. So we're almost there. He's, how about that? He almost looks like a Robotech fighter in Gerwalk mode. Can we rotate this around? Sort of. There you go. New third mode discovered. Gerwalk mode. Hot Rod. It looks awful. Next up is the arms. And there are a couple of steps to doing the arms. First thing you're going to do is rotate at the elbow this way. And then this part that is around the fist, they open up on both sides. So we raise it up like this. And then this part also, the bottom part comes up and over the fist. The fist folds down and it has to remain partially open. So usually you close fists up when you collapse them. This one has to remain partially open in order to feed into that gap right there. And then this part closes and then this part pushes up to connect to there. So once that is all finished, we're going to rotate the arms. Rotate the one arm. And there's a tab in here in the shoulder which connects into there. So it's nice that we have, it's not nice that we have this tab that's visible in robot mode, but it's nice that it acts as a guide to where this needs to go in robot mode, and it connects securely. Makes everything sit flat. And then the last part of the arm transformation is the exhaust pipes on the side. You raise it up, you fold this piece that was tucked in underneath, and that also tabs into there nice and secure. So now he's got his cool chrome pipes along the side of the car. And then lather, rinse, repeat on the other side. I'm going to rotate the arm. Or was it already? I guess it was already rotated in the right direction. And we're going to raise this part up and pull this part. It's a little tricky figuring out where this detaches. You just kind of get your nail in there and pull it up. And pull it up and over the fist, moving the fist back again, slightly opened so that it feeds into that gap. Collapse that. Listen to how tight those are. And turn it the other way. And connect, collapse and connect. There's a lot of wiggling that goes on with this guy's transformation. Feeding it into there. And there we go. That's most of the front of the car completed. Now that we've got the front of the car and the sides all assembled, you're going to once again make sure that your head is turned to the side, and we're going to lift this part up, wiggle. You got to watch those hands because they're still slightly sticking out. A lot of plastic rubbing on plastic on this guy, metal rubbing on metal. So I'll just tell you right now, if you're extremely picky, if this will ruin the whole thing for you, do not get this guy, because this guy is all about rubbing plastic on plastic, scratching himself. I showed you on the Targetmaster, turning the legs around causes plastic wear. But you can see here there's a tab there, and we feed that into that, and same on the other side. And we also, let's see, get that in there. Those are secured in there now. You can also reach in underneath. These are not my favorite transformations because these guys are so fragile. I never know where to hold them. It feels like if I apply too much pressure, like this whole piece here is extremely flimsy. And if you grab it in the wrong spot and push, you could snap something. So that one is not wanting, there we go. That's secured in, but it doesn't feel like it's all that sturdy. There's Gerwalk mode part 2. Okay, legs are next. And if you notice these on the back of his legs, these weird looking things, they're actually the seats for car mode. And they're really they're tricky to get out. You're going to need something like a spudger to pull those out. So if you have nails, you can get your nail in there, or you can use something like a screwdriver or some kind of spudger. And we pull those out, and those are the seats. So we pull the wheel out, and this wheel is on a panel that will collapse, and you can see there's a hole there and a tab there. So the tab feeds into the hole, and you can actually push this tab down. So you get it lined up and then push the tab and secure it into place. We open this up to give us some clearance, pull this foot out, collapse the heel, and you're going to rotate this foot, listen to that, around, collapse the foot into there, and you get like a little jet in there. And this part, this is a cool part of the transformation, pushes up. So I love it when Masterpiece and third-party transformers do something hearkening back to the G1 transformation. And Hot Rod's feet do that in the G1. And we pull this panel down. And I believe that's it for this side. Do the same thing on the other side. We open that up, pull this out. You can't push this down all the way because now it's not going to fit. So you have to get it partially ready or all the way lined up, and then push this down. And once again, just kind of wiggle it into place. Feels like it should go down a little bit more, as long as it's not interfering with the wheel. Is that all the way? I think it is. And we're going to lift this up. We're going to pull this back stabilizing part down, turning the foot around, folding it in, pushing it in all the way, flipping this down. Make sure these are pushed in all the way. And now we're very close to being finished. Alright, we're in the home stretch here. So before you can connect the top part to the bottom part, there's this piece right here that needs to come out. If you don't move that out, this will not want to go down. It just hits that piece. So it doesn't look like it comes out, but it does. So you have to pull that out to give clearance. You connect this peg into this hole right here. And this is another tricky part. When you pull this whole piece down, another thing to watch out for is my front pieces want to keep going back in. So just watch out for that. But there is a certain way you have to do this when you are connecting this part in the back. For this part right here, if you push the legs all the way together, this back part won't fit the way it's supposed to. You have to push this magenta piece down, and it actually has to sit inside these two metallic pieces. If you push the legs all the way together, I'll just show you. Push them all the way together, they don't fit in there now. So by pulling them apart just a teeny tiny little bit, then you'll be able to feed these pieces inside the way they're supposed to, like that. And then just kind of try to push them together as much as you can. Keep these tabs in, this wheel keeps coming out. Not the most fun transformation. This is what I'm talking about when I say I do not enjoy Masterpiece and third-party Masterpiece transformations, because this is just a whole lot of watching, a whole lot of tabs. So we have to fit these tabs back in for these arms on the inside here. Fit that in there. And there's another tab. You can see in here there's a hole and a tab on the arm. So it's hard to get a shot of that, but I'm feeding that. And it's a unique looking tab too. It's a peg with a line. It's almost like a keyhole. So we punch that into there. That's not really something that I can do for you on camera. It takes a lot of time and a lot of wiggling in order to get all those pegs lined up and pushed in. A lot of back and forth type of stuff. But I got those in there, and these pegs next to the wheels do push all the way in. They're really stiff on mine at first, but the more I pushed them, the more they went. So that's the back part, and then the final part is just this front piece will fold down again on top of my sticker. So hopefully that doesn't cause any damage. And then the final part is you got a little hole in there, you got a peg there, and that just feeds in there, secures down, squish it in. And that is Hot Rod, or Fans Toys Hoodlum, in his racer car mode. And just putting him down on the ground, I can see that he's not, oh, there we go. Just sometimes a little twist, twisting the back end in one direction and the front end in another will even the wheels out if you feel like you're a little bit misaligned. A bit of a twist, a little bit of pushing, and that fixes everything. And once again, he is missing the Autobot symbol on his chest. So it's once again Repro labels to the rescue. We're going to pop another one on there. And I think I'm going to go with the same size as before. So we just remove one of these stickers. You want to make sure that the surface is clean, and clean it a little better than with the back of your finger. But we just line it up again and pop it on. Sometimes you can check and make sure it's aligned properly before you secure it down. You can nudge it a little bit left and right and up and down. But if you like the placement, just press. And now Hot Rod, Hoodlum, is Hot Rod. His vehicle mode looks nice. I like it. It's a little different than it appeared in the movie. It's different than the G1 version of it. But it's a nice version of it. Nice spoiler on it. Great chrome on it. I really love this part. That's how it opened up in the movie. It was time to take Daniel to Lookout Mountain. So rarely have Hot Rod toys had this feature. And I'm a little curious to see if some drivers will fit in there. So here are the Masterpiece Future Spike and Daniel figures that came with Masterpiece Ultra Magnus. And I think Spike is going to be way too big to fit in there. Daniel is a little smaller. He possibly might fit. Let's see here. There isn't much leg room in there. So it doesn't look like Daniel will fit either. You could do this, I guess, if you just want to display your Daniel sitting in there with the canopy up. But these seats are so small that I think the only type of drivers that'll fit in there are the ones for G1 Transformers, like Diaclone drivers. Here is a Spike that's sized for G1 Transformers, and I think he should be able to fit in there pretty easily. He's a little undersized for this particular car, but there you go. He does fit. So it is possible to have a driver sitting in Hot Rod, which is awesome. I really wish more Masterpiece Transformers had that capability, a seat for a driver, because that's what I loved about the original G1 guys, and really the alternators were awesome for that, having all their seats. And a couple more comparisons for you. Here is Fans Toys Hoodlum with the original G1 Hot Rod, and they're pretty similar in size. It's pretty close. And all of the original features have been retained with the engine block, chrome on the side, the spoiler. In terms of the official Masterpiece releases, here's how he measures up with one of the Autobot cars. Here he is with tracks. And he's, like in robot mode, he's a little bigger than the Autobot cars, and in vehicle mode, he's a little bit bigger also. And another comparison I was really interested in, here he is next to the official Masterpiece Takara Tomy Hot Rod. This is the Takara Tomy, this is Hoodlum. And this guy is a lot more squat, a lot more low to the ground. And the chrome, everybody knows, is just abysmal on the official one. So quite a bit bigger than the official one. And the coloring is so much better on Hoodlum. It's not even close. This, just compared to this, the official one looks washed out and dull. So I'm not crazy about the Fans Toys vehicle mode, but the coloring plays a big part. and also the really nice chrome on it as well. And here he is with Masterpiece Rodimus Prime. This is actually a customized version. I am using the North American release of Masterpiece Hot Rod, and I just stuck the Japanese version's chrome tires on them so that it would all be chrome. But that's just as cool as having Hot Rod in robot mode next to robot mode Rodimus Prime. You can also display Hot Rod in vehicle mode next to the flaming Winnebago of love. So those look really nice together too. And this looks more like the cartoon comparison where you got Hot Rod, who is more of a pinkish magenta, compared to Rodimus Prime, who's more of a red magenta. Looking really nice together. And it's also cool that now both of them have this opening front part for drivers. It's kind of funny that neither can hold a driver, but at least they have seats. So you can attach his guns to his car mode by just flipping the handle up and pushing that peg into there. But what that's really for is the Targetmaster. So you take the handle of the gun, you push it down like that, and then there's a peg right there which feeds into there, giving you Targetmaster mode, which is like the G1 version, when you could attach the Targetmaster onto the engine block. So that's cool that if you want the 87 version of Hot Rod instead of the 86, you have that option too. Give them a little firepower in vehicle mode. Alright, to finish up, I'm going to transform him back to robot mode. Hopefully. First thing I'm going to do is separate the arms. That seemed to be the hardest part of transforming to vehicle mode. And we're going to lift this part up. We're going to pull the legs. Oh, we got to flip these up first. And pull these parts out. We're going to flip these parts back in and push these. You can see how far out these tabs go now. Push these. Oh, first we got to pull the feet out, which leaves room for those tabs to go back in. A lot of this transformation, if you miss a step, you won't be able to do the next step. Put those wheels back in, push those in. I'm going to flip these down. You have to sort of open these a bit to let those fit in. And we have a problem again with, there we go, you got to get your nail in there or a spudger. Get these heel parts, and we're going to collapse the seats back in. We got to push this back up there, turn the feet around and collapse them back into the feet. Ooh, that is tight. Collapse that in there. That's the legs. Going in reverse order now. We're going to take this thing, move it back up. That just came apart on its own, just from moving it around. And we pull the arms. We have to untab up here. Remember, they were tabbed into those shoulder tabs. So we just gotta wiggle it loose. I really wish they had gone with all plastic here, because doing die-cast metal is just not working. This is the part that untabs from the shoulder. Move that out of the way. And we untab that, and these parts are the parts on mine that are really tight. Just move these arms out of the way, and we need to move these back in like that, And another one in like that. There we go. And we move the shoulders down. Don't be fooled, this isn't his chest. You might feel like this needs to go on there, but just remember that's not his chest. You're not backwards here. You need to turn this thing around again. So remember the trick we did with moving the arm up out of the way so that he can turn around like that. And I mean that's going to get scratched. There's no way around it. There's nothing you can do. Maybe if you put a piece of tape there or something, I don't know, but you're just going to have to make your peace with the fact that that is what it is. So since mine is going to be in robot mode, it doesn't really bother me. These parts flip out on the backpack and that part flips in. And remember we have to rotate and collapse. Let's work on the arms. So the hands get pulled out. This goes over the hand and collapses back down like that. And we push that orange tab in. Let's rotate that around. Open that hand up and pull that over the hand. Straighten that out a little bit. Close that like that. All tabs in nicely. We have to rotate this again. Doesn't look like it's damaging anything, so that's one nice thing at least. Rotate these shoulders a little bit. We got to move this up and collapse. Push this down. And this backpack is another tricky part of how to get it to feed into there. Let's see here. These shoulders aren't cooperating at the moment. You gotta pull them all the way out. There we go. Like that. Backpack clips into place. The head does have a tab that feeds into a hole right there. So that's how you know you've got everything aligned properly. Let's see here. Feels like I've missed a step here. That feels a little better. And then these shoulders are too high again. I like to drop them down. It just makes them look a little more hot rod to me. This is more Rodimus Prime with the high shoulders. And this one is not wanting to go down at the moment. There we go. Just a little more wiggling. There's an alternate look for you if you prefer. You can leave his... Oh, I guess I forgot to do this on one side of the car. You can have his exhaust pipes extended in robot mode too. There is a piece of artwork that somebody did a while back where Hot Rod was kind of in a Wolverine pose and his exhausts were like Wolverine's claws. So you can have him with this look if you want. Makes the exhaust blasters more prominent. But I'm just going to stick with the toon look, the movie look. And that is Fans Toys Hoodlum. A mixed bag, a fantastic looking Transformer to just pose and have sitting on your shelf, but not the most fun Transformer to try to pose or to transform. So not perfect by a long shot, but in my opinion the best masterpiece scale hot rod that we have so far. And if all of the problems with it, the quirks, are too much for you to handle, then you can go with this guy if you want. If you want to wait a little bit longer and see if we get an even better version of Masterpiece Hot Rod, by all means, but I waited quite a while for that official Masterpiece Hot Rod and was pretty disappointed by him, and waited quite a while for this guy too. It's too bad that he has certain issues, but all in all, I really like how he looks with the rest of the movie Masterpiece Transformers on this 86 Transformers movie shelf I have. So for now, he'll do quite nicely, since I don't plan on ever transforming him again or messing with his pose too much. So hope you enjoyed this video. Thanks a lot for watching. Feel free to leave a comment below. Thanks to the Patreon tribe for all of your support. If you'd like to join the Patreon tribe as well, head over to patreon.com/MichaelMercy. And to join the tribe, hit subscribe. Till all are one.